Literally no offense to anything. They're very proud to cast a Latino actress as Snow White. It makes no sense to me. You're progressive in one way, but you're still making that backward story of 7 dwarves living in a cave. What the are you doing, man?
In a shocking twist to the Snow White controversy, rumors are spreading that Rachel Zegler blamed Peter Dinklage for destroying the film before it even hit theaters, but Dinklage basically slapped her out of her delusions. Wild, right? People are calling it the Snow White disaster, and for good reason. We're talking negative reactions, terrible test screenings, behind-the-scenes drama, and non-stop controversy. What started as Disney trying to update their classic fairy tale quickly turned into one of Hollywood's biggest nightmares, and the drama between these two stars is just the beginning of this messy situation.
And I get it, there's a difference between spoiling and whatever, but to go out and badmouth everybody and talk smack about, older movies in the same franchise, the canon story, I guess?
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. I feel like they would have had better control over that.
When Peter Dinklage first spoke out about Snow White on a popular podcast, nobody saw the chaos coming. He basically called out Disney for trying to have it both ways, casting a Latina actress as Snow White while still telling what he called a backward story about 7 dwarves living in a cave. His comments hit Disney where it hurt. On one side, they were celebrating diverse casting with Zegler, but on the other, they were potentially using stereotypical portrayals of little people. And this is where things get crazy. Dinklage's comments blew up online instantly.
Argument should have been from Peter Dinklage. There's power of being on TV, there's power of television, and to put 7 people with dwarfism on camera in a major Disney movie, there's still power there.
Some people applauded him for speaking up about how Hollywood portrays certain characters. Others thought he was going too far, saying he was ruining a beloved story that could still be magical without offending anyone. Social media exploded with arguments from both sides, but Disney's response? That's what really set this disaster in motion. Behind closed doors at Disney, total panic was spreading like wildfire. Insiders say studio executives went into full crisis mode, rushing to address Dinklage's concerns before the controversy could spiral further.
This would have been a lot better if they, had a strong male along with her, a prince, if it wasn't about socialism, if they didn't remove the dwarves, if they had real dwarves.
What was supposed to be a straightforward remake suddenly became a PR nightmare. Script rewrites were immediately ordered, with writers scrambling to figure out what to do with the 7 dwarfs without completely removing them. The most shocking change? Disney decided to replace the traditional dwarfs with magical creatures, a decision that literally made everyone unhappy. Actors with dwarfism were upset because it erased representation, while fans were confused about why Disney was changing such a core part of the story.
And someone goes like, hey, 7 dwarves is offensive to midgets. You're like, oh, okay, so let's just not employ any of them.
Yes, Peter Dinklage.
The studio was stuck between respecting the classic tale and avoiding accusations of being insensitive. The result was a complete mess. Production meetings reportedly turned into shouting matches about how much they should change. Should they keep the prince? Does Snow White need rescuing? What even are these magical creatures supposed to be? And right in the middle of this perfect storm was Rachel Zegler, watching her big Disney moment turn into a disaster.
You actually just went backwards. You actually just erased the dwarfism side of it, the disability, like we're a disability group, you just erase that whole image.
While all this drama exploded online, Rachel Zegler found herself trapped in a nightmare she never asked for. At first, she stayed quiet about everything, which made people think she either didn't care or wasn't allowed to comment. As filming continued, the script kept changing under her feet, sometimes daily. Cast as the famous princess, she had become the face of a project that everyone was already making fun of before it even released.
Because right now there's more dwarves on this podcast than there are in the new Snow White movie. And that's probably due to Peter Dinklage.
Yep.
Zegler's casting itself was already controversial. While many praised Disney for casting a Latina actress as Snow White, others questioned changing the character's traditional German background. Commentators started pointing out that Disney seemed to be trying to score diversity points while still telling a problematic story, exactly what Peter Dinklage had called out. As filming went on, Zegler was stuck working with a constantly changing script and portraying a character whose story was being rewritten almost every day. Everything good or bad about the movie was being directed at her personally.
It's this weird thing where he's saying, like, oh, it's bad that we're still doing Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, so he doesn't necessarily want that. But as little people actors, it's like, well, we kind of want to work. We kind of want...
Sources close to the set say Zegler was getting more frustrated by the day. When filming finally wrapped, the real trouble was just beginning. The moment test screening results came in, Disney executives knew they were in serious trouble. Audiences called the film all over the place, with a story that seemed confused and forced. For a tale as beloved as Snow White, this was a total disaster. People who saw early screenings complained about weird tone shifts. One minute it felt like a classic fairy tale. The next, it was trying to push modern messages that felt completely out of place.
Or can we just say midgie?
Okay.
Midget, dwarf, they're out of work. They're replaced by CGI things. Like, this is just a perfect
Imagine
example.
that.
When there's
Thing
no...
1 and thing 12.
There's no guiding principle, just progress for the sake of progress, and you're just trying to weave around a fence after a...
The magical creatures that replaced the dwarfs looked awkward, as if the filmmakers couldn't decide whether to feature them or hide them. The whole thing was a mess. Behind the scenes, the tension reached a breaking point. Everyone started blaming each other for how bad the film turned out. Some blamed Disney for panicking and ordering too many rewrites. Others blamed the director for not having a clear vision. As rumors about these terrible screenings leaked online, the public turned against the film even more. Then a bombshell dropped that shocked even the most cynical Hollywood insiders.
Backwards story about 7 dwarves living in a cave together? What the fuck are you doing, man? Have I done nothing to advance the cause from my soapbox? I guess I'm not loud enough.
Sources started claiming that Rachel Zegler was privately blaming Peter Dinklage for ruining the movie. According to these rumors, Zegler believed all the rewrites and changes were directly caused by Dinklage's initial comments about the dwarfs. She supposedly told close friends that the production had completely changed key parts of the story after his podcast appearance, which not only messed up the film's tone, but made her performance look inconsistent. People close to the production claimed Zegler was furious that Dinklage's comments had sent Disney into panic mode, resulting in a film that made no sense to anyone.
I mean, there's the easy joke of, well, we didn't see you on the soapbox, Peter. It's true. But
the rumors spread everywhere, adding personal drama to what was already a creative disaster. Was Zegler right to blame Dinklage? That's where things get complicated. People defending Zegler said her frustration made sense. The controversy about the dwarfs had grown into criticism of the entire film, overshadowing everyone's hard work. Others said it wasn't fair to blame Dinklage, who was just raising legitimate concerns about representation. After all, the film had plenty of other problems: pacing issues, confusing character motivations, and a story that couldn't decide what it wanted to be. As word of this blame game spread, the public turned even more against the film. The fallout from the Snow White disaster sent shockwaves through Hollywood.
that part, and if that's what's available, then that's what we'd like to do. But at the same time, I get what he's saying, because yeah, you're like, well, was it that bad? I go, yeah, because at the time, dwarves really didn't have any representation.
When the film was finally released, it came with all that negative baggage attached. Reviews were brutal, highlighting all the same problems from the test screenings. Critics described a movie fighting itself, trying to be both a classic fairy tale and a modern take, but failing at both. One major reviewer called it a case study in how not to update a classic. The criticism wasn't really about any specific actor's performance, but about the film's identity crisis. If Disney had fully committed to either keeping the original spirit or completely reimagining it, maybe it would have worked. Instead, they tried to play it safe and ended up pleasing absolutely nobody.
Peter Dinklage said that Disney casting Rachel Zegler is their way to feel good about themselves while ignoring a much bigger problem.
Disney's marketing team tried desperately to save the film's reputation, highlighting the visuals and performances while downplaying all the controversy. But it was too late. Snow White disaster had already become the go-to phrase for describing a production ruined by poor management and confused vision. The Snow White disaster wasn't just about one failed film. It revealed a much bigger problem in Hollywood. As the dust started to settle, rumors began circulating about a complete reboot starring Jenna Ortega. Industry insiders suggested Disney might be considering something unprecedented, scrapping the troubled version entirely and starting fresh with a new star, director, and completely different approach.
Rachel Zegler is supposed to play Snow White. She's Latina. It says, literally no offense to anyone, but I was a little taken aback that they were very proud to cast a Latina actress as Snow White, but you're still telling the story of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Jenna Ortega's name kept coming up in these rumors, with fans thinking her popularity and talent might help Disney save face. The Ortega rumors weren't just random speculation. Following her massive success with Wednesday and her growing reputation as Hollywood's new scream queen, Ortega had become exactly the kind of star Disney needed to revitalize the Snow White brand. Fan-made posters of Ortega as Snow White started popping up online, going viral within days. Social media campaigns with hashtags like Ortega for Snow White gained serious traction, putting even more pressure on Disney executives. Sources close to the studio claimed Disney was quietly reaching out to filmmakers who had previously worked with Ortega to gauge interest in a completely reimagined Snow White. The rumored reboot would reportedly take a much darker approach, leaning into Ortega's horror credentials while still keeping the fairy tale elements that made the original special. Tim Burton's name was even floated as a potential director, which sent fans into a frenzy of speculation. What made the Ortega rumors so compelling was that Disney has a history of course correction when big projects go wrong. They've shelved nearly completed films before when test screenings went poorly enough. And with hundreds of millions of dollars at stake in merchandise, theme park attractions, and future franchise potential, the company couldn't afford to have Snow White, their original princess, associated with such a massive failure. While Disney publicly maintained support for the Zegler version, internally executives were reportedly running the numbers on how much it would cost to start over versus how much they might lose by releasing a film that audiences already seemed primed to reject. The math wasn't looking good for Zegler's Snow White. Some insiders claim Disney was considering an unusual strategy, releasing the Zegler version directly to streaming while simultaneously developing the Ortega version for a proper theatrical release. This would allow them to recoup some costs while effectively burying the controversial production. For her part, Jenna Ortega never publicly acknowledged the rumors, though eagle-eyed fans noticed she started following several Disney executives on social media around the same time the whispers began. Her silence only fueled more speculation. Was she already in early talks? Had she signed an NDA? The rumor mill was working overtime. The controversy exposed a deeper problem with Hollywood's approach to updating classics. Ironically, instead of improving representation of little people, the industry started avoiding casting them altogether, using CGI creatures or casting actors without dwarfism in these roles, like Hugh Grant as an Oompa Loompa in Wonka. For actors with dwarfism, this was a complete disaster. While Dinklage was trying to improve representation, the actual result was fewer roles for little people in Hollywood. The well-intentioned criticism backfired in the worst possible way. The Snow White controversy perfectly shows Hollywood's struggle to update beloved stories for today's audiences. Every decision sparked new criticism. Remove the prince and you're betraying the original. Keep him and you're being old-fashioned. As the most controversial Disney remake ever finally faded from headlines, one big question remained. What happens when a movie studio tries to please everyone but ends up pleasing no one? The Snow White disaster will go down as the perfect storm of controversy, where attempts to modernize crashed into tradition, where concerns about representation clashed with storytelling, and where too many conflicting opinions created chaos. Rachel Zegler has moved on to other projects, trying to put this whole mess behind her. Whether she actually blamed Peter Dinklage for the film's problems might never be confirmed, but the rumor itself shows just how much pressure everyone was under. Dinklage has stayed quiet about the whole thing, focusing on his own career instead of addressing the rumors. For Disney, the lesson is pretty clear. Updating beloved classics needs a careful touch, a clear vision that honors nostalgia while embracing modern values. The Snow White disaster proves that panic-driven changes and half measures just don't work. Instead, studios need to make bold choices. Either stay true to the original or completely reimagine it, not get stuck in an awkward middle ground. As Hollywood continues digging through its vault for more classics to remake, we're left wondering, can these beloved stories actually be updated without losing what made them special in the first place? Or are some tales so rooted in their original time that any attempt to modernize them is doomed from the start? The Snow White disaster doesn't give us a clear answer, but it definitely serves as a warning to anyone trying to reinvent the stories we all grew up with. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the Snow White disaster, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on my latest videos. Drop a comment below with your thoughts. Would you watch a Jenna Ortega version of Snow White? And don't forget to smash that like button if you want to see more Hollywood controversy breakdowns like this one. Thanks for watching.